It's a Friday. I muted myself and then unmuted myself and then muted myself again, which means it's time for Anytime with Ken and Alden. I'm Ken, that's Alden. Hi, buddy.
Hello, and happy Lady Gaga Mayhem release day to you all.
I haven't had a chance to listen yet.
Oh, man, you are in for a treat. You're in for a treat.
I hear good things. Haven't had a chance.
I listened to it. So I was playing Marvel Rivals last night. And,
hear good things together, too.
Just jamming, just playing as Doctor Strange, being a menace. And then suddenly I realized, it's after midnight. I wonder if it's on Spotify.
After midnight. Yeah.
And it was so good. Top to bottom. With the singles, we already knew were good. I love Disease. I love Abracadabra. Die with a Smile is on there with Bruno Mars.
Oh, it is on there. I thought it wasn't going to be on the album. Okay.
It is the closer, which is interesting. It's the closing track. And everything in the middle is great. Like, basically, the singles are the bookends. The whole middle is the new stuff.
Great.
And it was very cool.
Love that. I can't wait. I'll make a point today. It is a sit down and Gaga day. There you go.
Molly Damon hasn't listened to it either. Molly, how are you even functioning without having listened to it? Oh, okay. That makes sense. I need time. But people need their Star Wars explained, I guess.
They do. We got to get that. We got to get it explained.
I'll explain it to them.
We can't just have it spelt out. We got to have it explained. And they do a good job. Molly and Alex have been just killing it on their Instagram. I'm sure Alex will mostly correctly credit Molly for that, but I love going to their Instagram and they do the thing that a lot of people do, with hey, we got news, but they just do it in a great Star Wars explained way. I love those
new graphics and everything. We're here just celebrating Star Wars explained as if everybody watching this would not already be a fan. But if for some reason you've been living under a rock, that would be our preferred and a small show called Force Center that is okay.
It is a small show. Also, well, it's a big day for me too. It's 2025 Topps baseball card day, buddy.
Ooh, all right, get your judge. So explain that to me. Is there a single day every year where Topps does this?
It's not today, but today I had to go early to a vet appointment, and I went and got some 7-Eleven coffee, and I was like, "Hey, sir, give me some of them new Topps baseball cards for 2025." Ding!
I love that. I think, I was talking about, this might be a little after your time, Ken. I was talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Yesterday with some of the boys. And
I know it. I don't know it, but I know it.
Been around. Yeah. You've seen mall kids. Yu-Gi-Ohs.
I remember the stores. Yeah, there was a lot of stores in the malls in the early 2000s with that stuff.
Exactly. And that conversation yesterday and you pulling up the Topps pack just now, it made me miss the era when trading card games were on top. And maybe there's a diehard Magic player in the comments right now that's going to tell me how it's still on top.
Yeah.
And isn't Mark Ellis a Magic the Gathering player?
He's not active. He's retired, but he he has a very impressive collection. He probably doesn't even want me talking about it, but he has a very impressive collection that's back home that he talks often about. How do I cash out and just head to an island and never return off Magic the Gathering?
I wish that for him. Oh, here we go. Steve is a Magic the Gathering guy. So there we go.
I told the story in the blather, and I hate repeating myself, especially it's on the same podcast feed. But yesterday, 2 days ago, I thought I won the lottery. I went through my old storage looking for some stuff, and I sold some Star Wars toys. Head to catnapsack.com, go to the shop tab if you want to get some toys. I'm selling them for about another week. Please.
I'll look, because I collect Black Series, so I'll look.
I need to eat. Oh, I got lot not listed. Let me know what you need. But anyways, I found a 1986 Topps Jerry Rice football card rookie. It's been in a hard sleeve since 1987. PSA 10, which is the top rating, goes for $75,000.
What?
And I thought, oh, look what I just did. But on close inspection, it wouldn't get that rating. It's a little off-centered, so it's not perfect. So it drops down about $74,000.
No.
Yeah.
That is one of the most brutal come downs
Dude, it
that
was
you could possibly feel.
dude, it was a whirlwind of about an hour because I just was like, oh, because to get it graded, it's a process and it's expense. I couldn't do it right now. Like you have to send it into PSA, and sometimes they'll charge like, hey, if this is estimated as 75,000, it might cost you 3,000 to get it graded. And I don't have that. But it'd be a good investment, right? Like, all right, let's do it. Let me get a loan, and then I looked at it. I was like, no, this wouldn't do. So, anyways, that hurts. It hurts. So Fetnick says,
it's absolutely brutal. Everybody here in the comments popping off about trading cards, which was a topic I did not expect everybody to have feelings on, but I should have known.
We're here for some serious conversations, but first, trading cards.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, if Congressman Al Green had challenged Trump to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, and
that's how we solve this.
That could be how we solve it, because we could con Donald Trump into thinking that it was really important, or that Putin liked it, we should create fake AI Russian propaganda that they play Yu-Gi-Oh and they take it very seriously. He'll believe it. Yes.
I totally agree with this. Love it.
Anyway.
Man. Where do you want to go, man? Where do you want to go? A lot on the board. On the board.
Yeah.
Put it on the board. Yes.
None of it great. We already touched on Lady Gaga, which was going to be the good news of the day.
That's good news. That's good news.
And then you haven't heard it yet, and Molly hasn't heard it yet. Oh, I did want to say before we moved on from it, Coop also wants us to listen to Ghost's new single.
Ghost.
I will check it out.
Ghost. Okay.
Coop loves Ghost. The Liv says, Liv up in Canada, our new enemy. Liv, you can't comment in this chat anymore. We're in a trade war. I know multiple people who still play Pokemon. My sister and her boyfriend have traveled to tournaments for it. It's wild. Wow. Very cool. I've never traveled for a tournament, but the peak of my life was high school, from I would say sophomore, junior year. Me and my friends every Friday, get in the van, and then be a shitty garage band practice, and then crash at that house. Then the next morning, go to the comic book store, pick up our new books, go get some Chinese food, come back to the comic book store just in time for the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, then go back to the same house, band practice again. Then all our girlfriends would come over. I'm telling you, we did not know. The Obama era complacency allowed us to think that everything was going to be fine. If I would have been radicalizing them at the time had I known.
I mean, you're speaking of the Clinton era complacency, where me and my friends, though at the time I was a Bob Dole fan. Bob Dole, here for American people. You know what I know, American people know it. But we would do what you would do: get off of work or get out of college, get out of school, get some Chips Ahoy, some sugary sodas, go get diabetes, and play GoldenEye for hours. That was our life.
Oh, the perfection. Darina is here. Darina says, how about that Bowie sample on the new Gaga, though? So Darina, a couple people haven't heard it yet.
Spoiler.
But I just saw, I'm so glad you're here, almost as if my thoughts could summon you, because Darina talked about the song Zombie Boy, which is one of the new tracks, on Blue Sky, replying to me. And it sounds a lot like, and apparently a lot of people are saying this, to Gwen Stefani's Holla Back Girl. Very similar rhythm to it. And then Darina said, I keep hearing this comparison, which reminds me how young y'all are, because to us olds, it sounds like an early 80s Lost Blondie track, and Holla Back Girl is an interpolation of Queen, which I also didn't know. And try as I might, Darina, I cannot escape being 29. So this will be one of those moments.
You can't escape your age. You can't. It's a thing. But
I didn't know that.
I mean, just in terms of vibe and everything. Yeah, I get where she's going with that. Indeed. Yeah. No, that's. Trust me.
It's very funny how that works out.
30 years of music, and you're like, wow, that's a lot. But anyways, okay. I'm more excited. I'm going to do a lunchtime listen to the Gaga album. I have not had that chance.
Yeah, I have not confirmed if Taylor Swift is in the background. Someone would have to tell me. 30 is coming. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so trading card music section. We could touch on this more later if I want. Please, everybody watching, like the video. Share it. We're on Blue Sky. I'm going to repost right now while I'm talking. Just remind everybody that we're live on Blue Sky at any time on air.
I'll do that too.
And Ken's like, I'll log into Blue Sky today.
I don't know. And thanks for everyone who has shared my ad for Bandcamp. It's Bandcamp Friday. If you got $10, if you got $10 for your Uncle Kenny, you want to buy his comedy album, please do.
Oh, but please, no, like, please do a full plug. I didn't realize it was Bandcamp Friday.
It's such a tough time over here. Right, there we go. All right, I'm gonna.
All right, there we go.
Lie down. Okay. Anyways, where do you want to go? Al Green and his cane. 10 cowards who voted to censure him. Hallowed sacred grounds.
Sure.
Where do you want to go?
Sure.
You tell me.
The State of the Union is a thing that we can't avoid. And
joint address to Congress,
sure.
or address to a joint Congress, whatever.
Yeah, no one cares. No, I'm not stepping on you, but like, I think that like to our off-air conversation, this is the level of not care about the ceremony that my generation has. To me, anytime that fucker stands up there is some sort of state of something. And
absolutely.
So it's the joint address, and then there's the discourse immediately, right? Of like, should they go or should they not? And you and I texted about this, but for the people that were not texting us, which is the majority of people here, what is your stance going in about our opposition party and whether or not it's worth showing up to such a thing?
Oh, you're asking me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a good rhetorical question. I had no dog in the fight either way. Like, I thought it was a win or it was a loss in either direction. You show up, we end up seeing what happened with the paddles we'll talk about. If you don't go, they're going to yell at you, and the old folk, like you say, and I think correctly, be like, but it's respect for the ceremony, which is, I agree, silly. So I like those that didn't show up. I thought it was just, that would have been the way to go for me. I wouldn't have shown up to the inauguration. But again, I get people that do. I even get the paddles to a surface level, meaning if you're thinking, what can we do? Well, let's hold up these things or whiteboards like Representative Tlaib had, and just the images for all history are going to be us holding lie, false, not true. Like, I can see it. You just weren't going to win either way. You show up, you're there. You don't show up, half the people are going to be like, you disrespectful. So, but I'll get to the end of my thought.
Sure.
The moment Al Green stands up,
yes,
not a reverend, but could be. The moment he stands up, shakes that cane, and they kick him out, you should have been gone.
Yep.
It should have been an I am Spartacus moment.
Yep.
And that's where my thought was.
And it's like, and I know that, for clarification's sake, we're talking about everybody. Like, I know Bernie Sanders left like halfway through, I believe. I know that Greg Kasar, I think, walked out. I know that Maxwell Frost revealed the shirt that had his message and then left. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible. This is in part why this episode is called A Few Good Democrats. Realistically, it's because let's just get something in the title that people will probably be mad at, which is the Democrats, and rightfully so. But also,
I put it in all caps. I think I spelled it.
Also, you did spell it right. Also, A Few Good Men is a really good film, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's time. But yes, David Mackay, not the soul singer Al Green, also true.
Not the reverend.
Not a reverend. Not the reverend. Yes. And I think that it's performative. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Dorita. Performative bullshit. Exactly my thought. Yes, it's performative bullshit. I think if you're gonna sit it out, great. AOC did a counter, not a counter event, a live programming. She went live, talked to people directly. Great. Do that or cause a scene. Do not go and be a participant, which is what almost all of them did. And first of all, they don't care about your signs. And it's like, I think that, again, we're realizing that this is like the knife fight, gunfight thing. We're like, the Democrats, it barely knives. They're bringing balloon swords. They're bringing party favors. Like, they honestly think, they honestly think in their minds that the people that are like pro-rape and pro-war and pro-genocide and pro-Nazism and, pro-Elon and his billions that he's made and just like they honestly think that the sign is going to phase them even a little. And it speaks to like a really like larger problem that we've talked about from all these different angles, going back to probably back to Biden's shitty debate performance that changed the trajectory of like when ever are they going to realize the magnitude of the fight that they are in? What will it take? And I really don't know what it would take. And you can see it even in these like, you know, these examples of like how Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene can scream and yell at Biden and he doesn't throw them out. And then, you know, Al Green gets thrown out. And everyone's point about that is look at how much classier Democrats are. And that's not my takeaway. My takeaway is Biden should have thrown them out. Like, it's like, I don't understand. Like, we've coddled them repeatedly has been the thing that I've been like obsessing over, is that the constant coddling but they only have smoke and toughness for the progressives of their own side, which according to, I believe, an Axios report, like they have now had this come to Jesus meeting that everyone's talking about in the news of Maxwell Frost and Al Green and all these people. Like, why were you disruptive and everything? That's not what we want to be doing. It's not like they have an alternative that they've spoken about. They just don't want that. And it's the same. It's the same thing that we've talked about before, or that I've been ranting about for nonstop. They will militarize the police on Columbia or UCLA or all these places for kids doing sit-ins with bongo drums saying "Stop killing people." They will crack their skulls, tackle professors to the ground, cuff people, this, that, the other thing, and then with these people, these unelected fuckers just standing around blocking government buildings, they're like, I'm not sure what we can do, guys. I'm not sure what the and it's like, this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. No, it's frustrating on all fronts. This is one of those I don't have the answers type of thing. It's like I want concrete action. Yeah, if you're gonna have a meeting, I hate to sound businessy, but it's not a problem until you have a solution. So, great. We're not to disrupt, but what can we do? What should we do? And announce it. I think just start doing it. You know.
Yeah.
It's an off-air conversation. I can't repeat too much. I had a conversation last week I was telling you a little bit about, and there was a scary moment in which these people, one who's an elected official, they were in D.C. 2 weeks ago, and they had a conversation with an elected official, and that person, a freshman in Congress, was like, in a scared way, not a Hakeem Jeffries, I'm on a book tour, and they have the majority way. So hear me. And everyone in the comments, hear me. This person was in a frightened way saying, there's nothing I can do. The systems stop me. Like it's stopped. So what can we do with that is what I want to know. And then it becomes like Al Green. It becomes that to me. It's a protest from within the system.
Like, it's going to become a push comes to shove moment that nobody is going to like. But like, again, we mentioned this a couple episodes ago. Like the Democrats love to invoke John Lewis, but none of them are prepared to get arrested 45 times.
Right.
Lewis did. And it's like, I go back to the Department of Education thing. Like when there's like that bald guy who's like no identification is standing there, arms crossed by the door.
Lex Luthor.
Like, the very same. Yes. And it's like, either tackle that fucker or go get Capitol Police. I don't understand. Like, why does Capitol Police exist? Yeah. And then people could say like, oh, but Capitol Police, they've fallen in line for Trump. Make them choose. Push them to the point where they have to choose. Now is also the time to get people through actions on the historical record. It's like, you know, if Trump wanted to, because he wants some sort of incident, right? He wants an incident, no doubt. They all do. Like this is textbook, right? This is absolutely textbook. Every country this has ever happened. He wants an incident. And I think people are using that as their justification of like doing nothing. Like, well, he wants us to lash out. That way he can declare martial law. Well, let him declare it. Like, I don't understand like why, like he declares lots. Let him have to get through the motions of it, exhaust them, slow them down. And it's and Doreena's point here, the fact that there's a minority of working class within the Progressive Caucus, most Dems are paid corporatists, Akeem, payroll, BlackRock, Lockheed, APAC. Yeah, I mean, they're busy taking Netanyahu blood money, and that's going to, I mean, that's like, look at Fetterman as like a case study. Outside of like the fact that his like depressive episode or stroke or whatever might have influenced him, it's like he just revealed out of nowhere how absolutely bloodthirsty that he is. And they're the only difference between a lot of these Democrats and the Republicans is that the Democrats are okay with black people and gay people and women. in a general sense. But we've seen, I mean, look, we're also going to talk about governor of the great state in which Knapsack HQ resides, Gavin Newsom.
Say it. New scum.
New scum.
And then you will join a lot of the Republicans and libertarians leaving the state who call him that. We're all united.
This man, yeah. Now he's managed to get every group to hate him, right? Like, congratulations. Except the people like Hakeem and all them. I'm sure they love it because, again, they want to blame transgender people and wokeness for why they got their asses beat in the election. They have no concept of the fact that pretending to be Republicans is what lost it for them. And here's Gavin Newsom. After spending all this time, all this smoke, and yes, these are two different topics, but they connect.
It's the week. It's the week.
It's the week in resistance. The whole resistance is on my shit list right now, except 4 or 5 individuals and the few good Democrats in our title. And it's like, this motherfucker really spent all this pre-election time during the Biden administration rolling up his sleeves trying to destroy Ron DeSantis, which we were all in favor of.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. It didn't mean anything, but like, yeah, I'm all for you guys bullying the Republicans. JD Vance photoshops endorsed.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Could have been our thumbnail.
I give him 2. There's 1,000 that we could have chosen. Maybe that'll be our thing. Next week, everybody has to send me their favorite JD Vance Photoshop before next week, and I'll figure out something. Bully them. Yes, I'm all for bullying people that are Sieg Heiling and like going after old people's, Social Security. Like, bully them. Yeah. And then Newsom, who I would describe as, I would say, I thought he was okay. Like, just like, he's not a great guy, and he's done some shitty things.
He's okay enough. I will argue with any progressive that says he has not done a lot of good things in the state. He's also done a lot of bad things.
Yeah,
I think you have to be realistic.
Newsom,
you have to be realistic.
You do, and I thought Newsom would have been theoretically an okay person to position if we needed a leader. Needed someone to. Okay. And now he torched it, and for what?
Flames torch
to try to earn back cultists that are never gonna come back. Like, and it's not like he had a Republican on there like pick anyone, like a Mitt Romney, right? It's not like he had a normal. It's not like he had a standard, as the British say, bog standard, which is a term I learned from Nikki. It's like it's not like they had a bog standard Republican on there who would have just been like, well, traditional family. No, he had a fucking alt-right piece of shit on there. One of the alt-right pieces of shit. And he gave him every point. He conceded everything. He gave up all ground. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, look, I'll go back a step. I'll say this. I had zero problem with him having Charlie Kirk on. The reason I say this is I wouldn't have platformed him. He doesn't need the platform. But I thought when I saw the news, I was like, all right, this is what he does. And I'm not like you. I'm like, I don't think it's a needle mover. But okay. Are we going to have some viral moments of him dressing down Charlie Kirk, who's an idiot? I don't know. So I was like, cool, whatever. Like, didn't wake me up out of bed for anything. But then to do what he did, even if I hadn't, I haven't listened to the interview. But the headlines are bad enough, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's what you did. Like, it was pointless to begin with, but that's what you did. That was
governor of California parroting
podcast
the same talking points that Undertaker and Donald Trump were using.
Yeah,
it's like, that's the level that you are at ideologically. It's like and again, they have proven, and this should be the loudest piece of proof, because the post-election autopsies can get very complicated, and like there's a million different points that everyone's throwing out. So it's like maybe people didn't have this storyline that was happening in them, but there was it's because we were too woke. It's because of trans that we lost, right? And Newsom seems to have fully bought into that. And if he thinks for a second that it's going to help him, he's wrong.
And I think that's what he was. I think he's a winds of blowing type of guy. This kind of sealed that for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, so we got.
Oh, let me go that way.
we got him. We got 10 Dems voting to censure Al Green. We got, which is just like, I have the list somewhere on my Instagram. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, I got it. Amy Barra of California. Ed Case of Hawaii. Jim Costa of California. Laura Gillen of New York. Jim Hines of Connecticut, who I saw him speak. Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania. Marcy Kapter of Ohio. Jared Moskowitz of Florida. Marie Glusenkamp Perez of Washington. And Tom Sweezy of New York. Didn't he just recently, was he the guy that won the Santos seat? I can't remember.
Maybe. I can't remember.
Yes, I saw Jim Hines speak on this on CNN. It was my favorite word. Feckless comes to mind. It was I did this to hold the standards and the class. It was that whole kind of bull roar that might have been nice in 1987, like I was saying to you. But this isn't where we're at.
And it's like, why? We were having a conversation in text that. Basically, what Ken and I do is all week we text each other because we're friends. Like we're actually friends, which is not the case for many podcasts. But we are actually friends.
Or radio shows.
Or radio show. Oh, 100%. I've never been on a radio show in my 7-year career where there was actual friendship between the hosts. Not all. Hosts, maybe one or two.
The one I started it was, and then all of a sudden, one day the tension kept building, and then one day they were at a huge. I was like a 19-year-old intern that had a huge shouting match, and then it was like, all right, coming up next. I was like,
exactly. You like a good pro will like ream somebody out and still hit the post. It's pretty beautiful.
It's good. Way. But anyways, but we haven't fought.
We basically pre-do this show in text every week is what it feels like. Like we have our conversations and then it's like what is suitable for air. And one thing that we talked about is when are they going to simplify what is going on, simplify and amplify sort of like their aggression, because this messaging is failing. Like forget Gavin for a second, like capitulating to the right. Even if they're not capitulating to the point, they're ceding ground in the way that they're trying to not even over intellectualize, because it's not like these are difficult things, but the way that they are beating around the bush and trying to treat this as normal, whether it's a decorum point like that, where it's like that's so easily refutable that again you're losing my entire generation because you're telling me that we need to uphold the sanctity of places that are run by people who literally rape women and traffic children and beat their wives and are drunk all the time and like and the list goes on and on and on.
Wow,
and it's like that tells me that you guys are like gaslit or stupid or both. And but even outside of that, I used Pete Buttigieg as an example when I was texting you. Pete Buttigieg posts on Blue Sky. This is his words. What he said about Social Security payments have I did a teleprompter there. I did a break. What he said about Social Security payments has been repeatedly debunked. So the question isn't whether he's lying about this. The question is why. What is this a pretext for? He and the GOP have long shown interest in going after Social Security. What are they going to try? Why are we playing this game, Pete? Why are we playing this game? People will listen to you, right? Why are you doing rhetorical word problems? Like you're saying, like, Johnny has 3 apples. If each apple costs $1, like, what are we doing? Like, and I wrote to him,
and a fox and a hound are on one side of the river.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that Pete Buttigieg is going to respond to little old me. He's busy.
He could.
But I wrote, all due respect, but you should skip this part and move to the answer. Bleed it dry, make themselves richer, watch people suffer. Like, I don't understand why that is hard for them. Why is this hard? And we, wrestling has been all over the news. Because much like America, John Cena turned heel.
I like that Stewart thing.
You did a piece on it with Billy Patterson. And Jon Stewart did his whole thing about it, which I thought was really smart. And we talked about how like a good wrestling promo, and meaning a person who is a good promo, will spend, like Paul Heyman will spend a year starting everything with the same line until it's in your brain. And the Democrats are standing around like they have no message. They have nothing. Like the post-Obama years will be studied for watching people fumble, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory constantly.
I agree. Going to your Pete point, I love Mayor Pete. Love Mayor Pete, and he is wonderfully, well spoken, eloquent even. But I do, yeah, I like what you said back of just like, let's get to the truth. And I don't even know what that if he posted the truth. The answer, like you said, I don't know who that's reaching. I don't know, but like that's a lot better. I told you, I've got people in my life who just, you can say all day about the unrealized or processed racism and all the stuff that's in there. Yep, got it. But at the end of the day, they're like, I didn't like Obama. He thought he was a smarty pants. Like that is throughout all of our history and something we still deal with. Of what do you know, them fancy words. Yeah. And that's hearing you read the Pete thing again. Big fan of Mayor Pete. It's just like, what I lost you 16 syllables ago.
And that's the thing, is that like, it's not that any word that he used is so.
No, it wasn't fancy.
But he is beating around the bush. It's the taking 5 sentences to say what you could say in one. And like, look, far be it from me to bitch and moan about that without owning my shit. I'm an extremely verbose speaker. It sometimes takes me forever to make a point. I'm very thorough.
I'm a rambler too, but
you can save all your jabs. I know who I am. But it's like, I'm also not doing this job. And if I was, you could not stop me from saying very blatant truths. They parade this child around, this young child of color who's sick. And so it's like, well, right there, you hate kids. You're fine with them getting shot up in schools. You want to cut cancer research for children, which you already allowed Elon to do. And people of color are constantly, getting victimized by the police state and everything that you guys support. And no Democrat has been able to flip using this child as a prop. It's been a week, and I haven't heard anybody make these very simple points. If that child is sick, get him research, get him help. Don't make him a honorary Secret Service agent.
It's like a badge.
Hell,
I really agree with you. Oops, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I agree with you, and to be clear, my point, like I don't, I know, jokes aside, yeah, you're very well spoken. I'm not well spoken anymore. I used to be. I'll tell you what, I used to be. I moved to LA well spoken, but then I spent 17 years in the public safety business, where 2 syllables were used at most in sentences, and I connected more with that world, and I think they have to be aware of that. I told you again of this off-air conversation I had of like, you don't want to speak. It's nice that you might speak for the middle, but you have to speak from the middle if you're truly gonna court them and win them over. And I like what your response should have been his post. I really think that, like, this is why they're doing it. This is why they're doing it. This is why.
With that exact tone too. It should be a
Friday
party
night
coming after.
I just
maybe
think
we should recruit Weird Al to the DNC.
Yeah, I just think that will cut through the cloud that we're all inundated. I had a little bit of a disconnection from the news this week. I just got other things going on. I'm plugged in. Yep, I do talk about it on my shows. You and I were texting, but I got things, man, and everyone in this world's got things, man, and you're going to see Mayor Pete's, and you're done 3 words in. Yeah, you're done 3 words in. So if that's part of the fight, clarify the fight.
I've said this before, I'm pretty sure. I know I've said it off air, but I've probably said it on this show. So apologies to anyone who's heard me make the same point and the same preface to that point. I really, really, really detest Bill Maher, but he was right about one thing when it came to Elizabeth Warren specifically as his example. He said she is a 3-syllable woman in a 1-syllable country.
It's true.
And I think about that. I think about that all the time because it's her and everyone, right? Like it's like the problem spreads. The problem spreads.
But all like even us here in our wonderful audience, like Force Center, I joke like there's no one more well spoken than Joseph and our takes on the themes and all that kind of stuff. But it's like there's I could point to all the other big reasons, many of them social and political, but other people do well and algorithms and this and that. At the end of the day, it's really, even as a stand-up, it's hard when people just want fart jokes, and you're out there going, but let's talk about the why of the fart. Like it's always going to be hard. And yeah, I'm with you. I I've hated Maher before it was cool because I hated him as a Republican and I don't like him as a Democrat. But one of the reasons I hated him when I was more on the Republican side in the early 2000s was he often said things that were right. Again, overall, he could go. I'd be fine with him going. But I really think you're right there. And it sucks. And I'm not. It sucks, but it's a reality for these times.
And that's the thing here. Coop's great point here. Being smarter isn't going to help us in a fight where facts don't matter. And that's the thing, right? Because it's like, that's the thing that the Democrats also don't grasp, is that the Republicans don't have principles. And when you're battling people that don't have principles and don't have conviction and are able to flip around and be flexible and stay frosty, as it were, they, like, if you countered them and you said, well, they're using a sick child and they're doing this, and you threw out all the points I just gave, I guarantee you the Republicans would be like, yeah, but the Democrats will let migrants in to kill kids. How about that? Like, they make shit up to be able to pivot at all times.
And my addition to that is, and when you say, the Republicans don't have principles, it might be the ones in office and everything, but I still think and hear me out, I still think there's those that vote for them that are convinced in their hearts that they're voting on their principles. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where I want to cut through that. Mm-hmm. And to your point, I saw someone when Dan Bongino, whatever the fuck his name, how you say it, Bongino got deputy director. I saw someone on Facebook post like, it's so good to see a wonderful American who loves his country and has been willing to serve it for years. It's such a warm story to see. They feel they have the principles in place. It's mind-boggling to your point I think you made of just like, and to Coop's point. How do you fight that when that's what's going on?
They're able to bounce around and just say whatever. And like, you can have, I mean, that was the whole thing with the Zelensky thing, right? Like, Zelensky is listing, empirical evidence. He's listing actual things that happened. And then Trump's counter is, no, that happened with a stupid man named Biden. And then everyone in the room's like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so you have to get, I don't want to dumb down the offense against them.
Maybe sorry, finish your thought, but maybe maybe we find another phrase, right? Because that sounds bad. Yeah. It also sounds condescending, right? Yeah. It all sounds condescending. If someone was swinging through our show right now and they're blue collar and they have their 9 to 5 and they're in the Midwest and they heard us go, to reach him, we must dumb it down. Like, that's a fire starter. So let's market the change.
To market the change, I think it's like, so if we put on our Don Draper Mad Men hats.
Yes. Here.
Have a
still got my prop cigarette near me.
Yeah, prop cig, exactly. We sit around and we think, what does America want? It's like, America, I think at this moment, instead of saying let's dumb it down so this guy gets it, it's like, how do we reach the individuals that are the true backbone of this country?
Right.
We need to put it in terms that the hardworking American can understand. We need to all that bullshit, because the Democrats are supposedly, they've always been the working class party, even though right now they're the APAC party. And it's like, that's the reality that they need to contend with too, is at some point we're going to have to primary all these motherfuckers. And that's when it unfortunately does come down to us getting out there and the turnout that was worse in 24 than in 20. We would need to see that flip the other way dramatically. So
and maybe if it's maybe take the let me be straight with you approach instead of dumbing down, and that sounds like we're in an advertising. We are in that Dom Draper meeting, but just it's a frame of mind too. And one of the things in this conversation I was having last week at breakfast was like, not that we can't and shouldn't be fighting at a federal level and a nationwide level, but like local. Yeah. That NFL punter fighting in the Huntington Beach, getting arrested in the school council meeting. That kind of stuff, and winning those elections because the Moms for Liberty, as they swept the nation, all that kind of stuff. That might be where some of the battles are, and it's easier said than done. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah. Can I just say I love this comment? We have a new viewer here. They probably already left. If you didn't leave yet, Sean Boyer, Let me know if you're still here. Oh, I just realized I was on a liberal channel, LMAO. And I don't bring this up to make fun of the. Oh, here we go. All right, you can fuck off. I'm banning you. Goodbye. Ban. Delete.
Oh.
See how easy that is?
Yes.
See how easy that is for other
it's
channels?
Not an engagement channel. Yes.
Yeah, this is not this is not up for debate. Trans rights or human rights. If you disagree, fuck off. I don't want you to watch. Like, it's very, very easy. I am not playing that game. But before they revealed themselves to be a repugnant piece of shit, I thought that their first comment was interesting because it's like they interpret criticism of the liberal response, right? Immediately, like this person tuned in and it was us criticizing the Democrats, and they immediately assume that like this must be a conservative channel until they realize it. That's a generational thing.
Look,
I've heard, well, because I've heard older guys especially try to get on me about like Biden, right? Like they've been like, well, Joe Biden, this is it. And I stand there and I'm like, you think I like him? Like, what did you?
Right.
We are not. These are not sports teams. These are not Star Wars characters. These are not Ken's new 2025 Topps trading cards. Like these people work for me. They work for me, and I don't fucking like the way that they are performing.
Yeah. Look, if you're swinging through and you think for a second we're a conservative leaning channel, it's my beard that does about 40% of that work. You look at that and you're like,
Then you turn and you look at me and you're like, look at that lack of beard. Look at this guy. Look at he can't even grow one. This is clearly a
smooth facer. Yeah.
A smooth face. Smooth face as a slur is so good. Look at that smooth face. My friend, I this has been said by many, but like the first time I ever heard the term, my friend Tyson one time was like, what a smooth brain opinion. And I died. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you could just tell that his brain is not, it doesn't have grooves. It doesn't have wrinkles.
The groove is in the heart. The groove is in the heart. There you go. Yeah, sorry. I think I may have lost you, caused you to lose your train of thought. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. I didn't predict that I was going to have to destroy somebody in the comments.
Yeah.
What is this? So we have having a good Democrat is non-existent at this point. They are full of hate and misery that they blame us and say it's us. And yours is all elite entrances. So that's a reference to AEW, a company that sells T-shirts that raises money for trans rights. By the way, just pointing that out to you, all elite entrances about what you watch. You know, since you don't actually seem to know. So it's been one of these times, right? So one of these times,
frustrating week,
where it's like the whole week has been kind of frustrating, and it's like the takeaways already from Al Green standing up for himself. You know, he's done well. I love the stuff that he said. Like,
it's been great.
He's willing to stand alone and like all these things. Like these are awesome things. Will they be adopted by the party? No.
Not when you got 10 voting to censure him. And again, in the most just pedestrian kind of talking point kind of way of we must have decorum. Yeah, it's frustrating. Again, you talk about primarying and talk about going local and small. That might be, get more Maxwell Frost in there and, all that kind of stuff. But And I thought Green's statements, I love the singing, which I don't I love it, but it was quite a sight to have Mike Johnson banging a gavel and no one listening while they sing.
No, I do want to get into the singing. I'm glad you brought it up because I had almost forced it out of my mind. So the singing, I'll credit Jared Bachman Stubbs from the Nerd Academy podcast. He texted our group chat and said that the Democrats singing "We Shall Overcome" is so cringe. And like my response,
it's a little Gal Gadot and her friends. It's a little Imagine.
And complete with the support for Israel. And I was like, it is cringe, but it also frustrated me probably because the a complete unknown has been on my mind. And like I've been in that folky mood because of Dylan and like Joan Baez, like all these things, like Pete Seeger have all been on my mind because of award season. And so when I saw it, it was like, yes, it's cringe, but it's also frustrating because it reminded me, and you could speak to this as a music history guy, that used to be fucking radical, right? Like that used to be badass. Like it used to, like post-war folk and soul. Like there was so much that was really speaking truth to power. And those, I feel so bad for the songwriters that they have now been like brunchified. Like they have been turned into like the pink hats of songs. It's depressing.
I wonder if they get songwriting credit. You know, will they get royalties for that? It's just it becomes farcical at some point there. Yeah, and part of the frustration of you know, what is the steps, what to do, what to fight is you know, you should have sung the other night then. that would have been the time to sing. Make them the rest all of you there.
Nobody's ever going to be more cringe than when they all took a knee, you know, for Black Lives. Like that was just...
I'm sorry. I was thinking of when they all took a knee and prayed around Trump. But that's
no, not
cringe a whole nother way.
Yeah. The Democrats take like Schumer and Pelosi taking a knee
slowly.
Yeah. And then cameras cut away before they got back up. It's
slowly.
I'm dying at Jared using the word cracker in the comments. It's so good. I'm looking at Rich Rodriguez is here. I live in Connecticut.
Rich.
Shout out Bridgeport. Rich, I'm from Bridgeport. Did you know that? Was that intentional? I don't know. I'll tell you this. We're already mobilizing to find someone to primary him as one of the 10. It's been 2 days. Yeah. Good. Bridgeport represent. Get him out. My hometown is weird. My hometown is not always the best. It's done some silly shit, including electing a guy to be mayor, and then he went to jail, and then he got out, and they elected him again. Hilarious.
Why did he go to jail?
I think it was like white collar crime, victimless, victimless, of course.
Put him back in. Put him back in.
Yeah, and also the home of hate breed. Thank you, Maddie. Yes, that's true.
Fantastic.
In the sense that like we don't have solutions because, you know, this is not a solution show. This is a kick around ideas show.
Which lead to solutions. I think we're hitting some stuff.
And I think we have our solutions that we would want.
For me, I'm just trying to work through. This is a great place this week to work through. Like, I am do more, and I just always want to know what that means, even to me. And I understand that there's some norms being upset. The balance is upset, and it might take more upsetting, and that can be a trial when someone like me has grown up their whole life with the perceived norms being in place. You know, they're not necessarily were, but you know what I mean? Like you didn't grow up thinking about that this is something that happened in, quote, other countries when, you know, council people were fighting and throwing each other in the dumpsters and lighting things up. Like that was a parlor joke. Did you see what was happening over there? And now it very well could here. And it's a little unsettling, but I think we have to talk through it and work through some of the unsettling, at least from my perspective and my generations. Like, this is unsettling. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. Now let's move forward and find other ways to find more ways to unsettle.
We talk a lot on this show about comedy and the art that we like and Star Wars and stuff like that because of the year that it is, the SNL 50. We've been talking a lot about it, and this isn't really particularly about SNL, but I've been listening to the new Lorne biography that came out, and it's it's a whopper. This thing is so in depth and like it's like 22-hour audiobook. I'm really enjoying it. It's about the man. It's not necessarily about SNL. So like it's like you get a lot of chapters that are before and during. And I can't wait to get to the 5 years where he wasn't there. All that stuff. But
a new show,
so much of the stuff that is like breaking my heart listening to it is knowing that the spirit is kind of gone, of like hearing about these all these people, him included, fighting for generational change and talking about how, you know, who got it and who didn't, and how it was a concerted effort on their part to like cull the people at NBC that didn't get it, and like to go like to weaponize all their resources to be like, we need to get this guy the fuck out because he does not understand that the times are changing. Like, and there's so many instances of that, and about the pushback and what the battle would be. And I posted this on Blue Sky, particularly about the show. It makes me sad that we'll never get, even if you got the 7 greatest current sketch performers together, they would never be given that opportunity on a major network. It would go to Netflix and maybe go a season. You know, like it's just it's not going to happen. To get the keys in that way is not going to happen. But even just culturally, like we talked about, like, you know, the simplification, reaching them. How do we reach these middle people? And when you hear like someone like Lorne Michaels in the 70s talking about, well, that bit is a little too Carol Burnett. She's Broadway. We're rock and roll. And it's like, I wish the Democrats would stop being Carol Burnett.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
I wish they would be rock and roll, because every time they do, it works, right? Every time they do, it works. That's the phenomenon of AOC. That's why she became not just an American power player, but like someone known worldwide, is because it was truly grassroots rock and roll. Jasmine Crockett the same. And it's like, why do they not see that and think, how can we do this? How can we tap into it? It's like that's why I don't believe they lose on purpose shit, because it's like that's too conspiratorial for me. That's way too out there for me. I think that's like 5D chess that they're not capable of. But there's no other reason than being bought and paid for by these donors. There's no other reason.
Additional reasons might be the simple acquiring power and becoming afraid to lose it. And that, like a studio exec, no one's going to get fired for saying no type of atmosphere we talk about a lot. And it's for a Jasmine Crockett, an AOC, or anyone in that punk rock kind of vibe. Katie Porter for a while. I mean, and she did lose the gig to a traditionalist. Got some stories on that guy, I heard. Schiff. And I think there's a little bit of fear. The button paid for it, I'm not refuting. I'm just saying, you know, you just step out. You know, for years, I'm so more outspoken as I've changed. But like, it's there's a little bit of fear of like what happens when you do. And it's not about that you're going to, you know, get pushback. It's just you might lose what you do. And I think it's a basic human thing that's hard. Again, I'm talking about the unsettling thing. It's hard to push through that unsettling feelings for someone like Jasmine Crockett. It's like, I'll unsettle you because it's not going to unsettle me. Sure. And she'll probably look where she's winning, you know?
Coop says, no hate to Carol Burnett. Yeah, absolutely no hate to Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett is innocent in this metaphor. And I think Lorne Michaels knew that. Yeah, it's not about her.
And he knew that. And he used to write for Lily Tomlin, and who herself was a revolutionary in her own way. But like at that time, look at his old Hart and what is it, Hart and Lauren, or Lauren Hart. Yeah. But that was the vibe. Yeah, that's why I was talking about. Yeah, it's. I don't want to get into an SNL side chat, but like Aykroyd tearing apart the studio when they were treated wrong by the network,
and for everything
in Mardi Gras,
culture, right? Like everything of that culture was the because again, it's not an SNL thing. It's a when will we tap into that soul again? Like we love Star Wars. You know, Star Wars has to come up every week because it's so fundamental to who we are. But that's part of the story of New Hope is older guys on the crew saying, "Fuck this kid," like. We've got the way we do things here. We have our hours that are set. We have this, that, and the other thing. And this kid is trying to make cartoons. Like he's a moron. Like the British guys did not. The older vets of their film industry at Pinewood did not respect this at all. That something different was happening. Rich Rodriguez sidelining Tim Walz and the weird stuff. Yep, we talk about that all the time. You're 100% right. Eli, remember that 1 week where Kamala's campaign actually seemed kind of half decent after picking Walz? Eli, look, I live in that week. That week is like my mind palace at this point, because I have to keep it up here in my brain so I will never be betrayed by hope again. Because I remember literal word for word text. There's a word for word text from my friend Gabe, who has pretty much the same politics as me. After Walz was chosen, we were talking about it, and then a few hours went by. We both got off work, and he goes, "Man, I can't even lie. I'm so libbed up right now." He's like, "I feel like it's 08 Obama." He's like, "I'm libbed. Let's go." And I never want to feel that way. I never want to be shot on, cheated. I never want to buy in.
Buy in. Look, as there was 2 days in 08 where I thought we Republicans had done it. We'd done it. We paired a McCain with a new firebrand from Alaska. Lasted 2.5 days. So I've been there before.
Jared with a comment here in regards
thanks,
to that
Tina
metaphor.
Fey. Yeah.
They will They will forever be Broadway. It's the Hamiltonification of the Dems. I agree. And I love
Mm-hmm,
that show
mm-hmm.
and the music. I also do. But they are too married to that myth and trying to LARP it, sincerely or not. That's them. It's true. Yeah, yeah, Jared also, he was on the record. I refuse to be lived up. It will disappoint me. He was right. It's a thing of like, there is an ideological break that is happening to Tully Quinn, echoing a point I made earlier, fighting harder to stop progressives and against fascism. Both parties have been in an identity crisis for the last 8 years. The Republican Party pretty much ceases to exist, and they've been replaced by the billionaire apparatus that is all oligarchical, that is not even Nazi adjacent anymore. There's just Nazis. Like, it's just, there's out and about Nazis. It's like, so they're having a break that we've spoken about. You've spoken very eloquently about your own family and people that you know, where it's like, when will they realize this is not what they are also espousing?
Yeah.
And then on the Dems, they're having this break where it's like, when will they realize that people actually want them to be what they claim to be? And I wonder if in 20 more years, I hope it doesn't take 20, will those two parties exist? Will there be a viable third? And who knows? But
we'll be in when the crown passes to Donald Trump Jr. by blood. We'll find out.
Yeah. Chris McNeil's here. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. Nick, we buy into hope, but life is more like Spaceballs. Evil always triumph because good is dumb. Yeah. This is
It's just a lot of unprocessed thoughts, which is, it's on a live mic. I'm trying to work through it because it was just kind of, there's a danger of a malaise setting in, right? There's a danger of a malaise where nothing seems to be stopped. Now, look, there's some things, there's some courts still tripping them up. There's some pullbacks, and I'm all for a good conspiracy theory on, are they intentionally destroying the stock market? Intentionally, sure, maybe, but there's some stuff to look at. But I don't want to have the Carville approach of just sit back, man. They're all going to collapse in 30 days anyways. Like that. That's where the malaise can start to set in, and that's kind of where I'm at.
It's too early for that, and it's them. I think, to wrap up everything we've talked about, whether it's Al Green, whether it's Gavin Newsom, whether it's just the whole approach, come to Jesus, et cetera, everything that's happened this week with the resistance. Yes, there are those pinpricks of light. Which, shout out John Watson and Chris Ford for giving us that phrasing, because they made a line in there in that show that has already endured.
It has.
There are people, there are instances, the courts that have, I mean, I don't want to give these people credit because they are evil, but we've even seen for the first time the SCOTUS have a little bit of a rift, where we had some dissension from Coney Barrett and things, where it's like, interesting.
Which was it?
Because I think they're realizing, he undermines the judiciary.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was like, wasn't it just a day or two after the speech where he, the hot mic John Roberts moment, like, thanks, man, I'm not going to forget that. Like, that's interesting. Jared's comment here. I hope the Democrats stop thinking they can beat Trump in a rap battle. That's the thing, right? And like, the Star Wars metaphor that we go to in our lives, like, because that's, to me, that is my faith is in Star Wars. And it's like, I think people love so much the message of throw down your blade and choose peace and choose love and choose family, that Star Wars is about, that they forget that we did have to blow up 2 Death Stars before we were able to throw down our blade. And there is always the story of Star Wars is, we would like it to be Star Peace, but that is not an option. That is the story of Star Wars. And so Star Peace it wasn't catchy. Yeah.
Star Peace is not going to happen for more than a period of 30 years is what we have learned so far in canon.
Star Peace.
We need to acknowledge it. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And what can, I'm with you. I'm with you.
This is an interesting question here from Luke. Hello, Luke. For people unfamiliar with Carol Burnett, what would be a modern day equivalent to that reference? We need to be more Lady Gaga as opposed to Jimmy Buffett? That's a really good question.
Who's the modern day Carol Burnett.
What would work in Lorne's metaphor for Broadway versus punk rock, Carol Burnett versus SNL?
That's weird to say. Like immediately, something that might come to mind is like I don't know. It's a hot button issue in the industry, but like an Ellen DeGeneres or even what Kelly Clarkson or Drew Barrymore are doing. I don't even know if that's fair. Here's the other thing though. I think what is forgotten about Carol Burnett is how much of a groundbreaker she was. And even though their comedy was a little more broad and funny, and Conway and Harvey Korman and Vicki Lawrence were and everyone else were geniuses in their own way. I think a little bit of the impact is lost over time, but Lorne wasn't wrong. They were network television. They were prime time. They were clean. So when I say those examples of like the daytime talk show run, it's not just picking on daytime talk shows, but it's like you're speaking to people universally, which is not a bad thing, and it's a good thing to be successful. But there's no bite to it when it comes time. I mean, Fallon, but even then, that's not fair to Carol Burnett.
Yeah, no, it's
not fair to Carol Burnett
because Fallon
she was a groundbreaker.
In a wrestling terminology, Fallon could not lace up Carol Burnett's boots. He does not have the work rate.
Yeah, and even as far as like the guy thing, like Taylor Swift and
Taylor Tapple. But
Taylor puts a lot of money where her mouth is, you know.
Yeah, I feel the spirit of this, but they're almost like there's only about a decade that separates them, right? Like a woman in her 20s, a woman in her 30s. Like not that. I mean, Carol Burnett was also not old at the time that Lauren said this, right? So it's like
she was in her 30s too, I believe. Yeah,
she was in her 30s. So it's like it is definitely a tonal thing that's harder the further we get away from the foundations. To your point,
because it's all
yeah.
Well, because SNL's become the culture. That's why I think I'm struggling to talk about it, because it might be SNL now versus SNL then. You know, that's what happens. You break things down and you rebuild it. I mean, I'm a big fan of Dan Aykroyd. I really am. He's a super talented guy, and he was dangerous, and he was probably the edge of the sword that SNL was, more than people gave him credit for because of Belushi. But then look where I don't want to say what he becomes, but then he just becomes a alien cop obsessed tequila dealer who loves asking questions and is fascinating in his own way. But I don't know if Dan of 1976 would recognize Dan of now, you know, and that's just kind of the human nature. So, but it's a great question to ask. I don't have the answer. I'm not.
It's great, and I do think it just like it's so amorphous about time and about approach, because things do become sort of like the system, right? And not everybody does. Like I think all the time of in 2013 when Wolf of Wall Street came out. That was when I was getting like really, because you got to keep in mind 2013 I was a child, so it's like this is a different time in my life than it was in yours. But
sure.
I was starting to get really into like film history and like trying to widen my consumption of film. And I remember watching a lot of like Leonardo DiCaprio and Scorsese interviews during that time. And this new actress, Margot Robbie, I wonder if she'll catch on. Right. And DiCaprio made a great point about Marty, which was, look how old he is. He's still making punk rock. It's like it would have been so easy for him to make 10 more mafia films and just call it a day. But like to do something like Wolf of Wall Street as an old man, that is so about excess and energy and movement. Like, so not everybody loses it. The generational gap that Lauren was speaking to doesn't vibe as much anymore, especially in the internet when things can live forever.
Yeah. I agree
and when people can, because if that was happening now, or if there was an internet then, people that loved Carol Burnett would have just looked her up and only watched her. And people that loved SNL would have looked it up and only watched that. So it's like the battles aren't the same.
They're not the same. Yeah, I think David Lynch, rest in peace. David Bowie stayed true to himself as an artist. And, that's why you go back and find so many clips of him saying things going, oh, wow, he was saying that then. Like, yeah, because he was plugged in, but still became rich and successful and has his own complications, or had his own complications. Yeah. It's David McKay said less Lin-Manuel Miranda, more Kendrick Lamar, even though I'm not familiar with either Q, Jared, the Dark Jedi. But that seemed actually makes some sense. Both being super talented in their own way, both being groundbreaking. Lin-Manuel Miranda, I think, being groundbreaking, without a doubt. But yeah, there's some truth to that.
And Lin-Manuel is also sort of like the face of the we like you until we don't, and you were too sincere at a time when we needed edge. You guys have actually spoken about this on Force Center, which was, I believe it was Joseph that pointed out that La La Land got crucified at a time when Rogue One was being celebrated because of the moment. And Lin-Manuel, I think, is undeniably at this point a pillar of theater, and has, he's the reason why hip hop has a home on the Broadway stage, and that's undeniable. But he also, people were like, his hopeful tweets are bullshit, his selfies are bullshit, he's so cringe. And it's like, and I have friends that say this. I have friends that have turned on him. I have friends that turned on Pedro Pascal. Taika's a different story because he is a clever little rock star, but like, that's a different thing. But like, I even had someone the other day so this person I love, and I had to shit on them for it. They were like, this guy, like, this guy from Indiana Jones, who's like grown up now, talking about Ki Hee Kwan. They were like, do you think he's sincere? They were like, he just seems like he's happy all the time. I was like, look at his story. Like, we cannot allow the time to make us so cynical that we are now questioning Ki Hee Kwan. That should be a capital offense.
This is, and I love what we do here at Anytime. And this, thanks for the audience that is here with us. Always lets us slide through things, because I don't want to lose the edge. I want more Al Green stuff. Whether or not that convinced my parents and their friends, no, it didn't. But it's going to stand up as something throughout history, I believe, more than the battles. But what you talk about of the war on sincerity, the guilt you sometimes feel when you're feeling hopeful. Producer Steve said earlier, don't lose hope. I have a young daughter. I'm going to have to maintain. I will maintain my hope for her future. My friend Mark Riley talks about that all the time. He's worried like the rest of us, but he's got a 2-year-old daughter. I think we're celebrating her birthday this weekend. That I think is actually today. Yeah. It's
blue.
Yeah, it did. But you know what I mean? So it's cynicism, I think, can be good. You should question. That's why I think anger can be inspiring and clarifying, and all those things. There's experience all the emotions, but the Ki Hee Kwan thing is interesting to me. Of like, I guess, would you? And I'm not saying this to your friend, but if you're just swinging through, like, what is this guy's problem? So happy. Yeah. So happy he had nothing. He'd been lost. He'd been forgotten. like I don't know. Yeah. Even I'm not here to defend method actors, but I read that great article that was going around this week about Kieran Culkin and what's his name, Jeremy Strong from the show you love there, both up for an Oscar, and that now memeable moment of Jeremy being visibly kind of upset for not winning something he worked so hard for, and it's a meaningless award in the grand scheme of things. Yes, but it was this like our view of the effort, or view of sincerity, or view of I'll throw it to hope, though that wasn't the article. It's fascinating, and I don't have a right or wrong take on it. It's just, but yeah, it feels weak right now, right? To come up and say, I got hope, we'll be okay. Yeah. Then I go to Ground News and click on my articles and go, maybe not today.
No, you're right. I mean, like, look, everything that and again, multiple truths. That's always our theme, multiple truths. Everything that we said today, I stand by about the fight, but to act like we don't need all sorts of energy, to act like we don't need all sorts of support, would be a falsehood. And I think back to the protests in 2020 after Floyd's murder. There was an infographic that I saw going around about protesting that was kind of like a fantasy RPG graphic, and it was like, we need every class for our protest party. We need, warriors, we need wizards, and it was like using those metaphors. It's like
lightning bolt.
Exactly. And we need bards too. The bard is an instrumental part of the party. They're not usually a combatant unless you subclass to the swords bard. But it's like you need someone that's going to be there saying, like, guys, remember our art. Remember that's dancing. The Andor trailer has Mothma dancing, and that became like the visual that a lot of us hooked onto. Context, TBD. But it's like that is also important, and that can also be resistance. So yeah, and I think we didn't even touch on the Oscars because that would be a 2-hour conversation with me. But like, to your point,
it'd be a 2-minute one with me,
and the 2-minute, yeah, the sincerity of it all is like. That was the whole thing with like Adrian Brody, because Adrian Brody big dicked the orchestra and like told them to stop playing him off. And he did it nicely. He was just like, please stop with the music. I've been here before. Right. Please just let me. And like everybody, or not everybody, but like 90% of people were shitty about it. And I was in the 10 that was like, look, if I made it to that moment and I have the power, we all know that the playing people off is bullshit anyway, right? Like, we all know we hate this. So it's like, if I can stop it, I wish I could stop it for other people, but if I could stop it for myself, it's like, I would. By the way, Conan crushed, by the way. We didn't mention that. Conan crushed.
I thought Conan crushed, but there's someone who chooses comedy over harsh truth, who chooses good vibes over bad vibes. And I think that was needed. I think Kimmel is always. I love where Kimmel is. You know, I don't. If you didn't follow Kimmel from Win Ben Stein's Money to Man Show to now, it's still stunning when you pull back. But that's how change and growth should work. But yeah, I agree with you. I watched I did go back and watch the monologue. I thought it was great and needed, and that's okay to have that for right now and in that moment.
Yeah. I think that all landed for me. Like Conan, he has a self-deprecating element that a lot of people don't, which he's been known for. And like, he, that was the whole thing. Like, he's the guest of the only good episode of Hot Ones for a reason, because he was able to push that show to the utmost Conan with everything that he did.
Don't get me started on that shit.
And so, yeah, I think sincerity is important, and I'm glad that we ended up on this tangent, actually, because I don't want anyone's takeaway to be like, I want rage all the time, because it's not.
Yeah, I fight. I mean, you know me. I fight against that, even though I can be a curmudgeon like the best. Like, because I don't know long term if that's as productive as pure anger. But now the anger is really valuable. But I really like what you said, and you spoke straight to me. You didn't dumb it down for me, Alden. We make the jokes about the big tent, but not talking about the big tent, but having all the emotions in the fight are needed. I think that's really valuable as we push forward.
Look, Ken, are you familiar with a little comic book called Green Lantern?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, totally. He's got the ring of power. It turns green. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yes, in a manner of speaking. Yes, the Green Lantern ring is run by willpower. That is how it works. You have to have the willpower to do it. So I would be a horrible Green Lantern because some days I can't get out of bed. So it's like that ring would not even come to me. There are also other Lantern Corps that have rings that function off of other emotions. And you have the red ring, which is powered by rage. You have the blue ring that's powered by hope. And it's like, we need all of the Lantern Corps in terms of what we are going through. There's your your little comment.
I like that. Can I address something that I hint at this a lot, and I just kind of want to deal before we go today. I might pee in a cup here. All right. All right. So Steve says, for the audio listeners, yeah, I want Hot Ones lore. Box Office Jack. Great cat. Love Box Office Jack. Has purchased toys for me before. Does Ken have beef with Sean Evans? What was that? I don't have beef with Sean Evans. I don't. He dated one of my friends, full disclosure. Didn't end necessarily well, but I'm not going to hold that against him. I wasn't there. No one cares, Alden. But the lore is at Collider with Complex Media, who owned us, Mark Echo's company at the time. Hot Ones was theirs. And it had been created by them and kind of in some way, allegedly kind of a little co-created by the person that ran us. And I got no beef with that person, but it was just every day was brought up about how great that was, how wonderful idea it was. And Sean Evans could collect all the checks he wants. He does the work. I think he's got a writing staff behind it. It's a bland style of hosting. The questions are great because they're well researched and memorized or read, and there's no life to the show unless it's a guest. And it's a great idea. It's a great idea. It's just so tepid. It's a little of what we're talking about. It's so pointless to me, unless it's a Conan snorting, unless it's I'll watch Gaga. The Bill Murray one I might watch because it says Bill Murray unfazed by the hot. Okay, how does this guy do? And that's all. It's just that, but it was shoved down our face in the writers' room at Collider all the time. We need our own Hot Ones. It's like that's not going to happen. And by the way, we have too much personality in here to do this. And what rose from that was one of the more popular people who's still kind of working on the brand is just wonderful, but is bland. and they wanted bland, and that guy's bland, and I push against that. The horizon in the middle is fucking bullshit, and the show is that show is a horizon in the middle.
Let me ask you an important question. Follow up. A lot of people in the comments are concerned right now about the fact that you obviously have to take a piss. Would you like me to vamp for about 2 minutes while you go pee? Because I still want to touch on John Cena before we get out of here. Can I do that?
Oh, you want to touch on John Cena?
I do, because this is our first episode since it happened.
The old man's prostate is acting up, and he's going to go tinks. All right? I'll be right back. Okay. Single shot. Here you go. Let's do it.
Guys, let's talk about Ken peeing. What do you think he does? Do you think he sits? Do you think he stands? What hand does he hold it with? Anyway, no. Let's talk about John Cena. So John Cena, who, for those of you that are not familiar, one of the greatest human beings to ever live. I don't know. He could be shitty, but I've looked up to John Cena since 2005. So literally most of my life at this point. And this man, like, I had the spinning belt buckle. I had the hats. You know, I was putting my nuts together. Like, this was serious. This is really serious. And I'm laughing at the pants all the way down. Yeah. And John Cena has, since about 2004 or 5, been in wrestling what is called a baby face, which is the term for a hero, a good guy. The heel would be the villain. And John has been a babyface forever for a multitude of reasons. 1, he's very good at it. 2, families respond to him, which is great for ticket sales. 3, it just made character sense, especially with a lot of patriotism built into the character. And then the reality also is that he's a great ambassador for a publicly traded company, and he has granted more Make-A-Wish wishes than anyone in history, more than Taylor Swift, more than the presidents, more than anybody. It's John Cena. And this past weekend, he allied with a villainous Dwayne Johnson, who's always been both good and bad in wrestling history, and attacked the current hero, Cody Rhodes, who is the WWE World Champion. And John Cena is now a villain in wrestling, truly for the first time in ages. And Jon Stewart did a great piece on The Daily Show about, you know, how this parallels America utterly and completely betraying the Ukraine and destroying 80 years of post-war world order. So this has been a trip for me. And Ken is back now. And look at how perfectly timed that preamble was. Yeah. I just did a perfectly timed summation of Cena's whole career up to this point, while I had the entire comment guess how you pee. We had some debate here about whether or not it's a sit-stand situation. Well,
okay. Fuck y'all. But this is hilarious. Cooper says, what if he sits on the toilet backwards? I don't, Coop. But when I was 4, I did. And I had to be taught that that's not the way you do it. You don't ride it like a horse. You sit on it like a throne.
I love it. Yeah, because right when you got up, I made a joke and I said, "How do you think he pees? Do you think he sits? Do you think he stands?" We had some very specific theories.
Yes, I washed my hands. All of you are just,
of course, he washes monsters. His hands.
I don't whistle. I don't know how to whistle, Steve. I don't know how to whistle. I never have learned to whistle my entire life.
Yeah, I'm bad at whistling. So I explained to everybody babyface and heel because
here's the problem. Here's the problem. Yep, here's the problem. Everyone knows that. And it drives me crazy now.
Well, I was about to ask you. I said, so the word heel has never gotten more play in the American media than it did this week. And it was already destroyed, right? Like kayfabe was already been destroyed. We know.
I don't want to sound like Jim Cornette, though. Jim, he makes a lot of great points. He's just it's a thing. It's a thing.
He's a bad person who happens to be right a lot.
Yeah, including a lot of times politically, right? I like him on our side, but anyways, let's not go on Cornette rant.
No, I get you. But I'm curious about your thoughts on that, because I know you have always been rightfully protective of the legacy.
But also I was one who would enter into a lot of conversations 15, 20 years ago. I would talk about Game of Thrones with my friends, in terms of, well, so-and-so's, it's like he's going for the IC title, so it's kind of the undercard, but there's going to be a swerve. Like, life is pro wrestling. The Jon Stewart thing, who's a lifelong, pro wrestling fan, was into WWE stuff for events a couple years ago, right? His Cena heel turn, America heel turn is perfection to me. So I've been there. So I don't get uppity with it. I have to make sure I don't, because it's weirdly, it's a thing. And I end up becoming the asshole when other people are just hearing a term that they understand.
The reason I ask you is because you have been on the record saying that you don't like it when people talk inside baseball if they have not at all had anything to do with the industry.
It's just frustrating. Yeah, you wouldn't, most of you, with all due respect, wouldn't be allowed in the locker rooms. And there is speaking of pomp and circumstance, like I remember there's one time we were at a WrestleFest in LA, which was a reunion, or wrestle reunion, should say, big con kind of thing down in LA. I was in the business, but with MPW, and a couple of my people went in the back, and one of my best friend turned to me and goes, "You don't have clearance to get back here," meaning I wasn't in that circle. And I'd be an outsider, even though I was an insider. That's why the handshake, right? The joke of the wrestling handshake was Carney code, and so there it's. I don't want to be the asshole who overprotects it, but then you get the podcast circuit, which is great, and I still think you should start a wrestling podcast. I love people talking about it, but sometimes I just hear that and I'm just like, you have no idea what it's like to book, and it's frustrating. But that translates to Star Wars and sports talk radio
for sure.
Where I'm like, you would not know what to do in a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy.
It just would have been better if Luke had actually shown up to create. Yeah, no, it's the same attitude. And so I was curious because, I mean, we literally had normal news panels, normal anchors saying the John Cena heel turn that shocked, so it's like, this is now just out there. And
which is fine. And it cannot be put back in, by the way, cannot be put back in.
I mean, we had somebody tweeted James Gunn and they were like, we should have known he was a heel because of Peacemaker. And we had James Gunn being like, heel is from a certain point of view or whatever he said. I was like, it's like all the worlds are blending and colliding. And I'm curious, we both watched The Angle. This is big pop cultural news. And I explained to everybody the importance of Cena, Make-A-Wish, and everything that he's done. 20 years.
Okay.
This is truly Anakin Skywalker fighting the whole Clone Wars and then becoming Vader. War ended. Like, this is a huge thing. Hulk Hogan also turned into a villain in the 90s for those that are not aware, and is also a villain in real life. So this is just like huge, and I don't have much to say about it because it's not a wrestling show, but I just wanted to talk about it because it cannot be overstated how much I was a John Cena kid. Like, I was like the John Cena kid in my life. And like I have friends that liked wrestling, but I was telling our listeners I had a belt buckle that spun. I had the Nux. I had the hats. I had the shirts. I saw him. Yeah. I've seen him live 2 or 3 times. I want to catch him on his last year, even though I struggle with giving that company money right now. He means so much, and I just wanted to note it because it was a unique moment that we'll never get again.
It was great. I watched it live. I was both surprised but not surprised by it in the best of ways. It is big, slightly different than Hogan. Hogan it's a whole thing, but also his heel turn is one of the great moments in wrestling that really changed the business. I don't think this one's going to change the business, but it's going to do great business. And it's also it's connected to what we're talking about here. You are speaking as a Cena kid, and I came around on Big Game John. When I started getting back into it in the late 2000s, here we go, five move John, you're always gonna win. But really, what that was, it was fighting the sincerity, right? It was kind of what we're talking about. He was speaking to you. You weren't worried about, is this guy for real? Like, I'm not talking about just a wrestling sense, but all of us were like, ugh, give us dark and gritty. And they're doing this kid shit. And
I think to tie into that point, like what John marks for me and why I'm so fixated on this turn is that John was the last good guy I believed in, with no irony. You know what I mean?
Yes.
John was, I remember 2005, It was John Cena versus Chris Jericho at SummerSlam, I believe. And Chris Jericho, unbeknownst to little Alden, was about to take a couple years away from the business to do other ventures. But I was still, what they call a mark, everybody. And I was somebody who completely believed the fiction of the narrative. And they did a loser leaves WWE stipulation. And watching John wrestle and loser leaves WWE, I was like emotional. Like I was really upset at the prospect of him losing. And then it was after that because of talking with friends and then going from elementary school to middle school, I started to be like, I like Edge. I like, Randy Orton. Like I like the villains. I like Triple H. But John was the last one that, like, before I understood story, really, that I was just like, no, he really is a hero. Like, he's really going to do it. And now here he is, and I can appreciate it fully as, like, this man did 20 fucking years of pure dedication, and now he's going to have fun. Like, now he's going to act.
Look at it. Vina Hale's great. Yeah. No, look, I grew up at a time where, Luke Skywalker was the boring one, man. Like, Luke's your favorite character? All right. Okay, but what about Han? It speaks to a bigger picture problem, but also what you're talking about of just like, you believed, and people believed in Hogan. That's why Hogan worked. The history.
Laserbolt said, "My man, Junkyard Dog always stuck to his guns." That's true.
That's true. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Look, it's fascinating, and I like it. I'm on board for it. It's intriguing. It's different. I do think there was reasons to not do it in the past, business-wise and just image-wise, and maybe that's where his heart wasn't at. Ricky Steamboat never went heel. Ricky Steamboat's one of the pure ones, but he just didn't have the reach as John, and it was good business to be heel, but I don't mean that cynically. But it's also good business to be a babyface, but it also was important to people, and now we're in a different time, and I think it's interesting. And I tell you, Rock's got almost go-away heat. It's weird. But I think they're doing the right thing. And I'd rather them kind of control the narrative now. Though it's fun sometimes. That WrestleMania was 17 or 18 where Hogan and Rock fought and they switched mid-ring. That's just good wrestling. But this is great. It's fun. It's got people talking. And it is definitely where we're at as a country.
Was Sting a heel? Very briefly. He's done
when? I can't remember.
I think TNA Joker Sting was like a heel, if not a tweener. Like tweener. He was kind of a crazy Joker ass looking, like
that was weird.
But I think he was sort of allied against like he was fighting everyone at that point. Like he was just crazy. But like he's never done a full heel angle.
He said God wouldn't let him go heel. So
Ken has been heel. That's true. Ken in other shows. That's all I had to say about it. I just wanted to note it because it was big.
It's a big moment.
The Democrats pissed me off so much that I didn't have room to do Oscars. I didn't have room to do Cena, and I realized I just couldn't let the show go without Cena.
I'm with you on that. That's what we do here. By God, that's John Cena's music.
If anybody has last-minute questions or super chats or anything, great. I did star this earlier, so I wouldn't forget. It would be a recommendation from Dorina, which is highly recommend Mark Lamont Hill's interview with Chris Hedges, where Chris explains how Republicans are oligarchs and Democrats are corporatists. So we've been living through the facade of democracy. I watched this because Dorina shared it, and it is superb. Very smart, very accessible, excellent conversation.
Got it.
Great stuff. You can find that on my Instagram or Dorina's. I think we both have it on our stories. Great stuff. Beautiful. Jared says that your heel turn got him into this moment. So you're responsible for the way Jared is.
I apologize.
You're responsible for the fact that Jared got a predilection toward trivia and has gotten his ass beat by me 7 different times.
Good. I'm glad I did good in the world. Glad I did.
Return to Cash Talk is needed. Look, I appreciate that you paid $2 to say that. Man, if there was time, but we are going to discuss it. Like there is. I
have an idea. Jared's part of it. Jared had a great thing for me yesterday on the blathering, and we were supposed to talk about it last week, but I probably had to pee. But now I've taken care of that. No, we can talk after the show here. So yeah. There you go.
Now let's my bad. I did spoil the result just then of a trivia thing that hasn't happened yet, but regardless, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that I beat Jared. So,
do you know how hard it was in the Schmodown? The way we tape things, we would tape. If you tape 6 matches during the day, they were not in order. It was so the amount of cuts of this thing, and that's why Bateman beat Guy.
Yeah,
can we do that again?
Yeah, exactly. Any other last questions, last thoughts, or anything? Or Ken, do you have anything coming up that you want to plug of dates or anything? Any shows?
Dude, no, I'm in a frustrated spot with the comedy clubs in LA. I'm not getting dates, and I'm at this point just convinced it's me. Yep. So no. Check out. Go to bandcamp.com. Bandcamp.com. What is it? Bandcamp.canapsuck. The hell is it?
No,
Bandcamp.canapsuck.com. It's too complicated.
Look, I put no other Ken Knapsack in the world. This should be easy.
I know, but if you're on Bandcamp, it's Bandcamp Friday. If you haven't picked up my comedy album released 2 years ago, In My Day, please check it out. Could use the support right now, so it's on there. Bandcamp, and most of the proceeds on Bandcamp Friday go to the artists. So that's kind of somewhere to look for me.
True. That's true. Venmo Ken $20, and I'll tell you a joke. Would you agree to that?
I don't. Sure, but jokes are subjective, and I'm not great at jokes.
Yeah, $20. Yeah, exactly. You could lowball them and just hand them some shit. Look on Bandcamp. You can choose. There's a minimum price, but you could choose your price, and then there's 26 minutes of jokes. Yeah, and this is not the live from the Harrison Pub, which is
this is the London one. Yeah, this is the London one.
It is the London one. Okay, I love the London set. Me and Nikki Kumar sitting in the back with the illustrious Grace and Sarah cackling at you two. That was a great set. And I don't just say that because I'm Ken's friend, because we all have friends that are not funny, and the very careful language that I would have to use if I didn't think Ken was funny. I'd be like, Ken really puts himself out there.
He was there. That was that great SNL 50 moment, but it's so true. Hey, you did it. You did it. You did the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sure. I don't have anything specific to plug other than obviously at the Alden Diaz everywhere. Well, not everywhere anymore. Instagram and Blue Sky. Catch me in Japan, where I will be Star Warsing pretty hard.
That's right.
That's
you're a month
and a half away.
You're a month out.
A month and a week. I think.
I'm glad I made the decision not to go, because I would not be going anyway. So it would be. I think I got to sell the tickets. I have. Can you sell the tickets?
You can. Yes, I'll send you the link.
Please do. I got to remember how we bought them.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Go to watch Severance, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.